Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, May the 24th, 2021. It is currently 2:58 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the middle of nowhere, Texas, the sanctuary of Victory Baptist Church, which is a church located in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Yes, if you're ever thinking about starting a church or becoming a pastor, just call me and I'll tell you where not to put your church. The middle of nowhere, Texas. And if you want to become a pastor and you have visions of being a pastor of a large church with lots of people, you may not want to choose to be the pastor of a church located in, you guessed it, in the middle of nowhere, because you're going to end up with a very, very small congregation. Now, this congregation has had lots of fluctuations, at times much larger than I ever dreamed it would be, and then times much smaller than I ever hoped it would be. But there are benefits from it being small, and there are benefits from it being larger. Right now, we're in a very small time, but you know what? What I try to do is you minister to the people who are here in front of you, but you don't let that stop your ministry, right? In other words, you don't just say, okay, well, here, I've got just a few people here, so I'm content with that. No, you then use everything you have to minister to people wherever you can find them, right? And so with a microphone, I can go into all the world and try, hopefully, what I can do is I can turn on the microphone, go into all the world, and hopefully God will bring people to this podcast who are looking for what I'm trying to do. And that is trying to talk about things from a theological perspective, talking about world events, offering commentary. And one of the most important things we do is try to draw people to the Word of God, to get them to be active students. I don't like that passive listening thing where you just listen to someone else, in a sense, their study of the Bible, or listen to them simply teach the Bible. I like to invite you to be a part of it. And one of the things I do over and over and over is I turn on this microphone and I do what I call Bible study exercises. What do I do in a Bible study exercise? I do some of the teaching. I do a little bit. And then I try to give you something tangible that you can work on, something that you can go look up, and something you can do. I try to get you to be a part of it. And the goal with the Bible study exercises is to spark conversation and discussion. The last Bible study exercise I think we did was in Psalm 4, which turned into what? 4, 5, 6, I don't even remember, 5, 4, I don't even remember how many different parts, all because one individual by the name of Twyla just started doing the work and participating and sending me her outline and her thoughts, and then I started doing this, and then we looked up this, and it grew and it grew. And that's why we do the Bible study exercises. So whoever you are, wherever you may be listening, feel free to participate. You can email me anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. Now, I know we've been asking a lot of deep hermeneutical questions in our study of the Niagara Creed and doing a lot of kind of hermeneutical speculation, I guess, in regards to the Psalms and Messianic Psalms. I've been asking a lot of questions. Here we're going to just kind of dive in to a devotional Bible study exercise, in the book of Philippians. All right, let me explain what's going on. And I'm probably going to do a podcast episode on this on its own, maybe. But the other day, I found, I don't know if you can hear this, it's a leather journal. It's black in color. It has in white lettering, journal. Down at the bottom right-hand corner is kind of a gray-looking cross. I really like it. It's kind of small, but it's a journal. And I love notebooks. Usually I just have notebooks, but I don't know. I think, what year was it? In fact, I can tell you. If I open up the journal, December of 2016. In December of 2016, I saw an ad. I don't even know what publication I was reading. And they were selling a journal and a copy of A Morning and Evening by Charles Haddon Spurgeon. All right. And they were selling them together for a pretty big discount. So I purchased them. So I took the journal. I received it in December of 2016. And on December the 30th, 2016, On December the 30th, 2016, I wrote, and I'm reading what I had written in the journal. And again, I wrote this on December the 30th, 2016. I wrote, a simple goal for 2017. A devotional study every day. This will include the following. Number 1, read a passage of Scripture. Number 2, read from a devotional. Number 3, write down some notes. I wrote this. There will be plenty of things that will prove to be obstacles trying to keep me from accomplishing this goal. It will be up to me to either fight or fail it will be up to me either to fight or fail to do the study, or I can simply make excuses. And then I put tonight's devotional thought comes from, and then I start working on the first devotional. So I had a devotional thought for December the 30th, 2016. That continued for pages. Then December the 31st, 2016, I did a devotional study. That went on for pages. January the 1st, I went for 1 page. January the 2nd, a number of pages. January the 3rd, January the 4th, January the 5th, and then guess what happened? I don't know what happened, but I stopped using the journal. I stopped. Now, I don't know what happened back then. I don't know what was going on, but I either got distracted or I misplaced the journal. I don't even know where the journal had been. I don't even know how it showed back up. I was walking through the kitchen and I'm like, wait, that's my journal. It was just sitting right there on the kitchen counter. I'm like, where did that come from? And nobody had any answer. I'm like, so I picked it up and I'm like, oh, there's my journal. So immediately when I started reading it, I was like, oh man, I stopped on January the 5th, 2017. Well, what a waste of money. And I'm a failure. I felt like a failure. So I guess what? I picked it up May the 21st. I started again. May the 21st, May the 22nd, May the 23rd, and then go to May the 24th. Oh, there's today. So now I've just started picking it back up, and I'm like, I'm going to fill in every page of this journal. Every page of this journal. And I just tell you that story before we even get to the Bible study exercise for this reason. Listen, in your Christian life, I'm telling you, you're going to have times of victory and you're going to have times of failure. You're going to have times of showing spiritual growth and spiritual discipline, and you're going to show times of spiritual apathy and complacency. You're going to have your ups and your downs. And you know what? Yes, when you fall down, maybe you fall into some big, horrible sin that's scandalous and everyone knows your name and everyone's talking about you and everyone treats you like you're some worthless outcast who deserves, to be crucified upside down. They may all talk about you, but you know what you do? You can't worry about that. You get back up. You don't listen to what everyone else says. You know what you do? In fact, you know what? Don't even get back up. Crawl through the mud, through your shame, through your failure, through the scandal, through all the whispers, through everyone talking about you. You just crawl. You're going to be covered in the blood, the mud, the failure, the embarrassment, the humiliation. You just crawl through it all, and you crawl right to the foot of that cross, and you lay right there, because it's from the blood that drips off that cross that will cleanse you, that will forgive you, and you cling to the cross, and you cling because the grace of God is greater than your sin, the mercy of God is greater than your sin, and there is forgiveness, there is mercy, and there can be restoration. Now, there has to be a process, but you can be restored. Peter denied Jesus not once, not 2 times, but 3 times, even after being warned that he would do so, and even after bragging that he was never going to do that. Everyone else may, but never him. Even after all of that braggadocious, thinking he was going to be okay, even after that horrible failure, he was restored because of God's grace and mercy. So when you fall short in your spiritual life, get back up. Or let me state it in a different way. In your spiritual life, if there's in a sense, a journal you didn't complete, and I'm using that in a figurative, allegorical, illustrative way, whatever hasn't been completed in your Christian life, whatever you've left undone, pick it back up and start doing it. Start working on it. Let's finish the race. let's get to the end. And so I picked this journal back up, and I'm working on it every single day. And guess what? It's Monday afternoon. I've been here for a couple of hours. You know what I need to do? I need to do my own devotional study. So that's what we're going to do together. Bible study exercise. Remember how this works. I do part of the work. I give it the rest to you, but it's done in real time. I'm having my Bible study. Having my Bible study in real time with you. It's not rehearsed. It's not all scripted. It's real time. And if you ever want to listen to me live, if you hear this somewhere else, remember you can download the Spreaker app and listen to us live whenever we're live on the air. If you have any questions about that, email me at newsif@yahoo.com. All right. I just feel like there's someone out there who needs to probably hear those words. That we sometimes find that we didn't do what we said we were going to do. We failed to do what we did. We did the opposite of what we're going to do. Just get back up. You know what? It's funny reading. It's funny. January the 5th, 2017, there's the entry. And then the next entry, May the 21st, 2021. You know what? I didn't write some lengthy explanation. I just picked up and just kept going. That's all you can do. It's all you can do. All right. So let's go to May the 24th. We're gonna fill in this. I did a little. I mentioned this like briefly this morning because when I picked up the journal this morning, I got ready to start, and then I thought, okay, what do I want to do? And one verse came to mind. I don't know how I came across the verse. I don't know where I saw the verse, but I saw the verse, and immediately, once again, it jumped off the page and hit me in a way that it had not hit me before. So let's consider it. You ready? If you have a Bible, Philippians chapter 1. Philippians chapter 1. Philippians chapter 1, verse 27. Now, if we go back to verse 26, just for a little bit of context, Philippians 1:26, that your rejoicing may be more abundant in Jesus Christ for me by my coming to you again. Now, remember, he's writing to the church of Philippi. Paul's in prison. We know some of the basic context here, all right? So he wants their rejoicing to be maybe more abundant in Christ Jesus, all right? But he says this, verse 27, only let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel of Christ, that whether I come to see you or else be absent, I may hear of your affairs, that you stand fast in one spirit, with one mind, striving together for the faith of the gospel. Now, what jumped out at me was this phrase, let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel. Let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel. And to read it all, let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel of Christ. Now, I immediately going, okay, so what does that mean? Let my conversation be as it becometh the gospel of Christ. So I started doing a little bit of work, and some of this I've already done, so we'll work on this. Are you ready? All right, so here we go. First thing we need to figure out, if you're looking at that, let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel of Christ. Now, if you're reading a different translation, they may have already done a little bit of work here, but what does that word conversation mean? So I looked it up, and the word conversation here, in fact, let's do this. Let's do it together, all right? I always tell everyone to have this. Download the Blue Letter Bible app on whatever device you use. Blue Letter Bible app. It's very simple. You find Philippians chapter 1. You find verse 27. You click on the verse number. It's going to open up your interlinear. Once that is open, you go down to let your conversation be. Click on this. What is this idea, your conversation? No, I'm hitting the table. I'm hitting the microphone. I apologize. Let your conversation be. This word conversation, what is it? Well, the Greek word is this.
Strong's G, 4176, polytuomai.
Okay, hang on.
Polytuo.
All right.
Polytuo.
Polytuomai, that's the one we're going to go with. We're not going to go with Thayer's, but polytuomai, all right, that's the idea. Polytuomai, And here's what's interesting. Polituomai, it's used 2 times, all right? It's translated once, live, right? That's a helpful, and then once conversation. So conversation has something to do with live or living. So let your living, let your life, okay, that gives me a little idea. Let's see what Strong's definition is. Strong's definition is, in fact, let me look at this. Okay, so polituomai, it is to behave as a citizen. To behave as a citizen. That's interesting. If we look at Thayer's Greek lexicon, we'll see it refers to be a citizen, to make or create a citizen, to be a citizen, to administer civil affairs, manage the state. But it's this idea of being a citizen. That's interesting. The outline of biblical usage, to be a citizen. To be a citizen, to behave as a citizen. Now, if I go with this idea, this is interesting. All right, so Paul telling the church at Philippi, live as a citizen, live as a citizen that becometh the gospel. Live as a citizen that becometh the gospel. All right, that. Now, is he saying, now I'm just going to throw now remember, Bible study exercise here, right? I'm throwing out some ideas. It's just interesting that the Greek word here, the Greek word, polituomai, I had to look back down at the Greek to make sure I had the right Greek word, polituomai. It's interesting that it emphasizes citizen. So live as a citizen in a way that becometh the gospel. Now I'm thinking about this 2 ways. So let me see what you think here. I'm just going to throw this idea out there. All right? Remember, this is the way it's supposed to work. Live as a citizen of heaven in a way that becometh the gospel. In other words, live out your citizenship as a citizen of heaven in a way that becometh the gospel. Okay, I'm trying to picture that. Or live out your citizenship here on earth. But I think we're considered not citizens here. We're considered our citizenship is in heaven. So I think it would have to be citizen. I was trying to think, is he Paul telling the people at Philippi, hey, live out as citizens here in Philippi, live in such a way that becometh the gospel? Or is he saying live out the reality of your citizenship as a citizen of heaven in a way that becometh the gospel? So I'm trying to think of it. Is he referring to the citizenship of heaven, or is he referring to their earthly citizenship? As your earthly citizen, as an earthly citizen of Philippi, wherever you are, as a citizen of whatever city, state, country you live in such a way that becometh the gospel. I don't know if that works, but I'm trying to go look at it from 2 different directions. As a citizen of heaven or as a citizen of earth, all right? Now, let's continue. We're going to take this apart, and then we're going to look at it from a number of different translations, all right? So there is the word conversation. Now, becometh. What becometh? What is that referring to? Becometh, all right? Let's go back here, Philippians 1:27. Only let your conversation, let your citizenship be as it becometh the gospel. What is that? Becometh the gospel. Well, let's look up the interlinear. As it becometh, I didn't want that. It just brings up every place becometh is used in the English translation. I don't want that. I want the Greek. Here we go. Becometh is this Greek word.
Strong's G 515, axiao.
Axiao. And it is used 6 times. It's translated worthy, becometh, after a godly sort. The Strong's definition is becometh after a godly sort. All right. As becometh after a godly sort. Thayer's Greek lexicon. Worthily and a manner worthy of. and a manner worthy of. That suitably, worthily, and a manner worthy of. So as a citizen, so let's try to translate it this way. As a citizen, or let your citizenship, or as a citizen, be as it become suitable, worthy, and a manner worthy of the gospel. Live as a citizen in a way that is in a manner worthy of the gospel. All right, that's kind of getting me thinking a certain way. Let's see how other English translations handle this. Let's look at other English translations here. I've got every English translation that's ever been written on the face of the planet right here in front of me. Not physical copies, but in a digital form. All right, here we go. Philippians 1:27. Let's just start with the New International Version. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel. Now, whatever happens. Now, if we go back to Philippians 1:26, listen to the New International 1:26. So that though my being with you again, your boasting in Christ Jesus will abound on account of me. All right. Okay. So Paul is talking about possibly coming back to them. So the New International, whatever happens. So it seems that whether I can come back to you or can't come back to you, whatever happens, right? Conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. So no matter whatever happens to me, whether I can come back to you, can't come back to you, that's the way the New International Version seems to pick it up. Whatever happens to me, whatever happens to you, conduct yourself in a manner worthy. Now, they translate the idea of conversation or citizen as to conduct yourself. But it's to conduct yourself as a citizen. Again, is that conducting myself as a citizen of heaven, or is it conducting myself as a citizen? Wherever you live, conduct yourself in a way that is worthy of the gospel. All right. I still got some questions, but okay. Let's go to the New Living Translation. Above all, you must live as citizens of heaven, conducting yourselves in a manner worthy of the good news about Christ. Now, they literally place the citizenship there. They just remove all question or doubt. It's a citizenship of heaven. Okay, so as a citizen of heaven, live that out. All right, that's possible. ESV. Only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ. Berean Study Bible. Nevertheless, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel. Berean Literal Bible. Only conduct yourselves worthy of the gospel. King James. Let your conversation be as it becometh the gospel. New King James. Let your conduct be worthy of the gospel of Christ. New American Standard, only conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel. The New American Standard, only conduct yourselves, and this is the New American Standard 1995, only conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel. New American Standard 1977, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel. And then the Amplified is only be sure to lead your lives in a manner that will be worthy of the gospel. And then one more, the Christian Standard Bible. I'm not going to read them all. Just one thing. As citizens of heaven, live your life worthy of the gospel of Christ. All right. So the emphasis here in Philippians 1:27 seems to be that we are to live our life in such a way that is worthy of the gospel of Christ. Now, you could argue, is it I'm living as a citizen in heaven? Is it based because I'm a citizen in heaven because I'm a citizen in heaven? I need to live out a life that is worthy of the gospel? Or is it because as a citizen here on this earth, as I'm living on this earth and my way of living on this earth, I need to live on this earth in a way that is worthy of the gospel? And no matter which way we go there, the bottom line is, and I really want to drive home here, because this is where I really want to lead this to. I'm leading you right here to this point, so listen carefully. Here's the question. What does it mean to live a life that is worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ? This time, now I've been through Philippians bazillions of times. This time, it hit me far different than it has ever before. Because I think typically what we do is, live a life that's worthy of the gospel. Okay, so I'm a Christian. I'm a citizen of heaven. And because I'm a Christian, I need to live a life that's worthy of the gospel of Jesus Christ. But what would a life look like that's living like that's worthy of the gospel? Now, let's make sure we understand. To be worthy of the gospel, no one's worthy of the gospel. The whole point of the gospel, if we speak of the gospel of Christ, that's the good news of salvation in Jesus Christ. That's typically how we understand the gospel, right? It's the good news of Jesus taking on human flesh, dying for us as sinners. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So what would it mean to live a life worthy of that? I think what we typically do is, okay, now that I'm a citizen of heaven, now that I'm a believer, I have to live a life that's worthy of the gospel. So that means I can't do this, can't do that. I got to be holy. I got to be this. I got to be godly. And I think we emphasize a way of a level of morality about somehow making us worthy of the gospel. But the gospel is for sinners. So how do we live a life that's worthy of it? That's the question I kept asking myself, trying to figure out exactly what could that mean? Because I don't know how I could ever live a life that's worthy of that. I mean, the gospel message is the eternal Son of God, who's without sin, took upon human flesh in the form of a servant and died for me. My sins accounted it to him, and he suffered the punishment for me. He suffered the wrath of God on my behalf. As a sinner, I'm a sinner. So what could I ever do to be worthy of that? What could I do to and I think all of them use the word worthy. I think every translation did. Let me go back and verify. I think every translation used the word worthy there. Worthy, 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 worthy. Yeah, they all do. Yeah, all of them say worthy of the gospel. So you need to live your life in a way, conduct yourself in a way that is worthy of the gospel. And I just don't know what that looks like. If we look to Charles Haddon Spurgeon, he said this: the word conversation does not merely mean our talk and converse with one another, but the whole course of our life and behavior in the world. The Greek word signifies the actions and the privileges of citizenship, and thus we are commanded to let our actions as citizens of the New Jerusalem be such as becometh the gospel of Christ. What sort of conversation is this? He says, in the first place, the gospel is very simple. So Christians should be simple and plain in their habits. There should be about our manner, our speech, our dress, our whole behavior, that simplicity, which is the very soul of beauty. So he says that this is referring to living a simple life in what we do and what we own and how we dress. I don't know if that is, I don't know about that. He goes on, the gospel is preeminently true. It is gold without dross, and the Christian's life will be lusterless and valueless without the jewel of truth, so that we should be truthful in everything. We speak the truth. All right, I don't know if that's what that's referring to. The gospel is a very fearless gospel. It boldly proclaims the truth, whether men like it or not. We must be equally faithful and unflinching by the gospel, unflinching. So he says that we must be unflinching and bold. And that has to be worthy. It also says the gospel is meek. Mark the spirit of in its founder, a bruised reed he will not break. Some professors are sharper than a thorn hedge. Such men are not like Jesus. Let us seek to win others by the gentleness of our words and acts. The gospel is very loving. It is the message of God, of love to a lost and fallen race. Christ's last command to his disciples was to love one another. Oh, for more real, hearty union and love to all the saints, far more tender compassion towards the souls of the worst and vilest of men. We must not forget that the gospel of Christ is holy. It never excuses sins. It pardons it, but only through an atonement. So he gives some, and I could go through some more things he says there. He just basically is a lot of our behavior. Let's do this. Don't do this. We got to do this. Don't do, be this, be that. And then we'll be worthy. But I don't know if all the behavior in the world would ever make us being worthy of the gospel. So I'm still trying to process this. So I'm going to throw out a theory. Okay. Now remember, in Bible study, one thing a lot of times you do is you come up with kind of a thesis, a hypothesis, and you throw it out there and then you work on it and see if it makes sense. Trying to say, hey guys, look, let your conduct, as a citizen, let's go with the citizen of heaven concept. As a citizen of heaven, you need to live out in this world a life that is worthy of the gospel. So it's almost like, okay, now you've got to be extra good. You got to be extra good to be worthy of the gospel. You've got to be extra holy, extra right, extra true, and I just don't know if that works. So let me just bear with me and see if this makes any sense. The gospel is this amazing news. Sometimes we refer to the gospel as the good news. It's this amazing news that God is holy and me, an unworthy, unrighteous, unholy sinner, not only by what I do, but by what I leave undone. I am a sinner by nature. I'm a sinner in my thoughts and my words and in my deeds. Again, those things I do and leave undone. I am unworthy. I am undeserving of grace or mercy or love. The only thing I deserve is hell. The only thing I deserve is condemnation. The only thing I deserve is judgment. So how can I live a life that's worthy of that gospel? I don't think there's anything I can do, but I think there's something I can do that would, in a sense, be worthy of the gospel, and that's this. The gospel news, the gospel is good news to a sinner calling for mercy, forgiveness, and salvation, that if I'm going to live worthy, I must be gospel-minded. Gospel-minded. Let me see if I can explain this. To me, to be gospel-minded would be to live a life worthy of this gospel, because the gospel itself is something I embrace. Not just I embrace the news, I embrace the truth of it, but I embrace the perspective of it. Let me explain. If I embrace the gospel, my life should be lived in a way that shows and reflects that gospel. In what way? One, it should always keep me broken and humble. Whenever I look to the cross, whenever I hear the gospel, I should be broken and humble, because it reminds me of how sinful I am, how little I don't deserve anything, and how much grace and mercy I have been shown and given. I don't deserve any of it. So I should live a life of one of great humility. And when I say live it, in other words, the gospel should create a humble mind, because I am an unworthy sinner. I'm a beggar who has nothing. I bring nothing to God. I bring absolutely nothing to God but sin. I bring nothing to God but a person who deserves to be judged, to be condemned. And then God showed his mercy and grace. I should remain humble in my mind. Humility is a life that becomes worthy of the very gospel, because I've received something so great. I should be broken greatly. God's great mercy, God's great forgiveness, God's great grace should humble me greatly. I should be the most humble, because I've received eternal salvation when I deserved eternal damnation. And it's not because of anything I did or anything I can do, will do. So it should humble me. And two, I should be gospel-minded, not only towards how I see myself, but I should be gospel-minded in how I see others. I see others as sinners who need the gospel of Christ. I need to be gospel-minded towards them, not just to throw rocks at them, not just to point my finger at them, not just to condemn them, not just to say how messed up they are and how horrible they are. I need to see them as people who need the same gospel that I needed. I need to come to them and say, yes, you've sinned, but God can forgive you. Yes, your sin is great, but God's grace is greater. Yes, you've done horrible things and you're covered in the mire and the shame of your sin, but the blood of Christ can cleanse all of that away, that in him there is complete forgiveness. I need to be gospel-minded towards myself, which will humble me, and then gospel-minded towards others, which will make me, what should make me empathetic, loving, compassionate, long-suffering, filled with mercy, and filled with grace. And not filled with condemnation, condescending, looking down upon people, being judgmental, being critical, being hateful, and thinking I'm better than everyone else. I think to live a life worthy of the gospel is to allow the gospel to really become my identity and how I see me and how I see you. It's easy to say, well, live a life worthy of the gospel. And I mean, man, God saved you. Now you better do this. But no, doing all of those things still won't make you worthy of the gospel. I think to be worthy of the gospel is to live a life where the gospel changes how you view yourself and it changes how you view others. That is gospel-minded. That is a gospel life. That is a life that I think becomes worthy of the gospel. And if you think about it, I'm going to go back to the other text. Whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel. Then whether I come and see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel. New Living Translation. Above all, you must live as citizens of heaven, conducting yourselves in a manner worthy of the good news about Christ. Then whether I come and see you again or only hear about you, I will know that you are standing together with one Spirit and one purpose, fighting together for the faith which is in the good news. Why would they be working together and standing together? Because a gospel life that is worthy of the gospel, they would be always remain humble toward, in their own estimation. They would be humbled in their own view because of the gospel, and they would view others through the lens of grace, mercy, and forgiveness and long-suffering because of the gospel, which should allow people to then stand together and work together for that gospel. That's my thoughts. What do you think? Now, typically, I would give you a bunch of things to look up, but we've done I did 99% of the work. Now, you just need to meditate on it and then share your thoughts. Share your thoughts. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wanted... Okay, I wanted to go, you could look at verse 28, but we'll stop right there. We'll just stop right there. I want to I'll start adding. I really just want you to meditate on it. What does it mean to live a life worthy of the gospel? Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, it just means to be holy, and it means to be righteous and to be godly. And I'm not denying that we shouldn't strive for those things. I just think that no matter how righteous or godly, it's never going to be worthy of the gospel. So to be worthy of the gospel would be the gospel itself changes how you think. That is that the gospel is having that impact. How I view myself. If I view myself in light of the gospel, I realize how undeserving I am, and it should keep me humble that I've received something I did not deserve or earned and could never earn it. And it should change the way I view other people. If the gospel is not just what I believe, but it changes the way I think and how I treat and view myself and other people, that makes the gospel worthy of the gospel, because the gospel has become the reality in which I see life. Then it makes sense. You can tell me what you think by emailing me at newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. That's going to conclude this day of live broadcasting. I'm headed home. So everyone have a great day. I'm sorry I didn't finish all the things I needed to finish today. I never will, but we talked about a lot of interesting things. Hopefully something I said would be beneficial. Everyone have a great day. I look forward to your emails. God bless.